Hello and welcome to this online episode. I hope you are watching and can see what's going on, and can hear me. I can see now I'm live on LinkedIn, which is always good. I hope everything looks okay. And let me just get it in here. Oh. Oh. Cool. Jaka, thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. I hope everything looks good and you can hear me. I guess that's always a good thing to know everything's working out good. But cool, thanks you could join. And I think we got a pretty long program, and let's just get started. Oh, add to stream. Cool, and I will just remove my background. So thanks and welcome to this episode. I can see we got quite a number of people joining. If you are joining, please just let me know in the comments. And if sound is good also, please say hi. So I guess in August, one of the things I talked about was DevOps for SAP CPI. Now we increased and improved what we're delivering, and I wanted to show a little about what we're doing with DevOps, with type to Cloud Integration Suite. Hi, and thanks for joining. And yeah, so that's the topic, DevOps for Integration Suite. Let's see how far we get around with it. Rakesh, thanks for joining. Hey, Alan. Oh, I need to do it the right place. So the topics of the day that we'll cover is Azure DevOps, how you can do Azure DevOps with SAP integration with CPI, and then we'll cover the Figaf tool, how they can also help you achieve a DevOps-like feature a little simpler. And then how you get started with the Figaf tool. Just before we get started, I guess you're here. Crash voices echo. I'm not really sure how that. If I can fix that. I hope you don't all hear that echo. Thank you. We should probably use that and more. No clear audio. Strange. I hope everybody else hears it okay. Than just Rakesh. Otherwise, I need to find another way to do it. So yeah, you probably all know integration is important, and what is going on in that perspective. And it's just gonna increase the load on what you need to do as developers. So you need to figure out how to develop SAP integration a little easier. So before we get started, we obviously have the Figaf tool. If you have not registered or downloaded, I would highly recommend it. Just figaf.com/DevOps and sign up. Then you should be able to try it out and see how this tool is working. And obviously, we will go through this a little later. DevOps is a part about joining operation or development and operations. I've read the book or heard the book. What's called? The Unicorn Project by it's a book about how everything goes wrong, and then they, with DevOps methodology, giving developers access to deploy code and integrating all of things into an organization, everything's become magical and much easier to handle. So that's kind of the outline, making it easier for developers to work and deal with their integration. Perfect. And then why DevOps? I guess you have seen the number of interfaces that you need to develop now and what you need to develop in the next few weeks, month time, and seeing what's going on there. So there's going to be a lot of integration work. And there's also the part about you need to change who is on your project from time to time. And I guess we have seen this in these times where suddenly a project stops and everybody just is kicked out of it. So Aseni, I guess you can unmute yourself. So Aseni is one of our developers. He has been creating the Figaf DevOps Tool and a lot of our plugins. And he has been working on trying to see how we can use these Gradle plugins to deliver pipelines and deliver iFlows in CPI or with Azure DevOps. Aseni?
So yeah, hi everybody. So I think that we can show you some demo about how we can integrate our tools with Azure DevOps. So I think that I will need to share my screen, right?
Yeah,
so
I'll just the outline that we want to do is these things. So how do you create a task in Azure DevOps? How do you change code on iFlows, and how you can then both create build pipelines and release pipelines, and how that thing can be automated. So Aseni, if you share your screen.
Yeah. So can you see it now?
Yeah, I can add it now. So now you can see Aseni's screen.
Okay. So yeah, as you know, in Figaf we have a couple of different sub-projects, and one of the important thing is our Gradle plugins. So yeah, and we tried to understand how we can use DevOps, how we can integrate DevOps to our processes, or vice versa. No. So there is an Azure DevOps platform, and actually,
Azure DevOps, for those that do not know, it is a platform that enable you to do continuous builds process, take a Git repository, and then deliver it to users.
Yeah. So first of all, you have a repository here, and the repository has a specific structure provided by IRT. So in IRT, we can build your Git repository structure. We synchronize all iFlows, download them to the specific folders, and we can commit or push them automatically or whatever. So, you know, first of all, here we start from the repository, which contains all the needed iFlows, right? So after this, using exactly Azure DevOps, it's possible to create the pipeline. So the pipeline is just a YAML file which contains a couple of different jobs, or tasks, steps, and so on. So in fact, it describes how to build and when to build. So in this example, you can see that the trigger for the pipeline is a commit or pull request to master branch, because it's written here master. But there could be different configurations. So and when we commit to master, or when we make a pull request to master, which is basically also the commit to master, right? So it starts the build. And for this demo example, it actually collects all the changed iFlows, all the changed folders, and then publish them as an artifact. So why we are doing this? Because for example, if you have 100 of iFlows, and in your release you have been working with only 3 of them, it would be quite strange to deploy all the iFlows to your production system, because obviously it makes sense to deploy only the changed ones, right? So that's why there was there was a challenge how to define exactly the changed iFlows. So for now, we are doing this using the git diff command, which is called in the PowerShell script, and as a result of this build, we receive an artifact, and the artifact looks like this. So in fact, it's just a projection of the big repository, to the changed iFlows. So in this example, only this iFlow was changed. So that's why we have it. We have here only this one, and also we add forcibly some some files needed to do further steps, like Gradle U or some libs and so on, but it doesn't really matter for now, probably. So yeah, and after the build, you can start with the next type of pipelines, which is called release pipelines, and it's probably even more interesting thing. And the idea of release pipelines is to actually, to cover all your landscape and to make the full process for you automatically or partially manually, but so here we have two boxes, right? First of them is called artifacts, and it's just the configuration saying which data needs to be used for the further deployments. And in this example is just the latest artifact created by the previous pipeline, by the build pipeline. So it's also possible to configure here really a lot of conditions. It's very flexible, so it's possible to configure approvers. It's possible to configure triggers, so it can be started automatically or manually or whatever. It's very flexible and it's very up to you. And as you can see here, we have two stages, QA and prod. And if I open the task section, so it's this one, you can see here that for QA, we just run only one command, and it's exactly our Gradle task, our Gradle plugin task.
And this is the Gradle plugin that's open source that you can also use if you want to.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you have any questions or comments during this, please put them into the chat and we'll try to answer those.
Yeah, and actually this task is doing a couple of things, So first of all, well, I think that I can show you the logs. So first of all, it uploads the iFlow to your environment, because you need to configure here the environment parameters. So, and you can see that, yeah, if I click grid, it's possible to see that, you can have different values for QA or prod and so on, right? So, and regarding this task, so first of all, it uploads an iFlow to QA system. Then it deploys it. So you could see in the logs that it was waiting while it's been successfully started. And then it integrates with our IoT cloud server and runs the integration tests using the test suite name, right? For example, if I open our cloud IoT, so you could see there, I think that Let's just wait for a second. So if I go to test suite runs, so you could see here that we have some test for our iFlow, which was run successfully on our QA system. By the way, it's Cloud Foundry platform, which is quite a new one.
That's also the reason why it took a little longer, at least on our system.
Oops. Yeah, and then so basically, when the deployment for QA is done, you can either manually or automatically go further for the prod deployment. And regarding prod deployment, so I think that it's pretty much the same, but there is, a couple of differences. So here we use, again, Gradle tasks, but actually we only upload and deploy integration flow because I think that theoretically, maybe the production system is not a place where you need to run integration tests for like testing purpose. So yeah, I mean, obviously it's very flexible, and it can be configured depending on the exact wishes of the customers. But I think that it's like a proof of concept, right? And also, by the way, Azure DevOps provides you some task tracker, and here I have a task just called test one, and we can see here that like 24 minutes ago it was successfully deployed on QA, and 8 minutes ago on prod, right? And by the way, I've read that it's even possible to run Azure pipelines directly from GitHub. So
GitHub should also have some pipelines steps that you can run.
Yeah,
I guess it's kind of the same thing. You just need to figure out what to automate.
Yeah.
There is two questions. There's one about, do we have a blog about this? Not yet, Akash. I will, let's see. We just wanted to show it here first, get some input. If there's things we need to add, please also put that into the comments so we know what we should cover, but we'll be writing a little about what this can do, how it works, and obviously the plugins. Does this cover automated tests? Yes, we are using the Figaf platform to run a lot of your tests because it contains, we have all the test automation that you need to create either mock services or to create other kind of services. So there's a lot of functionality that we're using, and what Arseny just showed here was that with an extra command, he is able to run these tests and get the result into the play here.
Yeah, and also, of course, it's possible to run not only the integration tests, but also just unit tests, which could be configured separately for each iFlow. And Figaf also provides some automation regarding how to prepare data for your tests and so on. So it's also one of the features.
Once you've created a recording of an iFlow, you can take this data, put it into the Git repository, and then from this Git repository, it will then create automatic unit tests for all the different iFlows that you have, or all the different Gradle plugins that you have. Obviously, you need to make sure that dependency and stuff like that is delivered in this process. Any other questions on this? Let me see here. Any questions here? Cool. Yeah, otherwise just put them into the chat. I will go back to my stream. And yeah, feel free to ask these cover. So this was what we showed. These different things is possible. If you want, yeah, so there's the Gradle plugins you can find at github.com/Figaf. Here you can find the API management, the Gradle plugin, and these works essentially the same way. You can run them, and they got this information. So they are pretty well documented for you to get started with these things. If you want our help getting to start this, you can go to send an email to us, and we can start up a package and figure out how we can create plugins for you that make sense, and where you have an option to deliver these pipelines in a way that suits your organizations. So that's a way if you want to get started with these things. We'll have a blog coming out with some of the ideas we have on how to do these things and what's a part of this. Cool. Then I'm putting out, so that's, I guess, the full-fledged normal DevOps approach. And a lot of customers are asking, can we use this together with the Figaf tool? So obviously in the Figaf tool, we have also built a lot of the same functionality that you get in the DevOps, but we have obviously tailored it a lot more to integration, trying to make it a lot easier to deliver SAP PI, CPI, and API management without you having to spend a lot of time setting up these things. But obviously, the Azure DevOps give you a lot of flexibility in being able to understand what's changed, who have made which scenarios and stuff like that. But we do have an option, and this is the Figaf tool where you are simplifying a lot of this process. So the big challenge, and I think that's no matter which of these you would be developing in, is that you have two places you need to edit. You have your Git repository, where you will be editing code, all your Gradle plugins and stuff like that, and then you have the UI the web UI where you'll be delivering the iFlow model, improving it, and figuring out how to develop it. So that's probably the thing that makes it a little difficult, and not really something I would say we have a standard way of delivering this, because there's two places you can edit these things. We have a Git repository, and it is really user-friendly setting up. I have a video on my YouTube where I think I spent like 20 minutes on downloading the Figaf tool on my laptop, setting it up, creating a Git repository, populating this, and just as we saw with a Zenith computer, you have access to all these things and all the Gradle plugins. So from your development environment, you can edit these things without having to think too much or work on creating anything else. Then we have the Gradle plugins, and we also have other options to make it easier to develop. We have shared scripts. So if you have a script that you want to implement in multiple different locations, it's able to do these things. And you will have like a way it can synchronize these data. And we also have a replication of shared iFlow. So if you have created an iFlow that you want to use for 5 different company codes, it's also able to do these things. And then there obviously it comes into some challenges with that's something we can only do in the Figaf tool, because if you want to do it with the Git flow, it becomes a lot of different code on how to handle these different things and managing and copying the iFlows and stuff like that. We also have a visual BPM editor or viewer, diff viewer, that allow you to view what's being changed on an iFlow and seeing specifically where in a model something has been changed. And I think that really makes it a lot easier when you're doing reviews, that you can see, okay, this is the place that someone has made a specific change, and you can actually see what data in that element has been changed. And you can browse around in Model Scroller and find all the different areas where it makes sense. As said, we also have the Git repository, and this is really simple to initialize. It takes 20 minutes. The way it works is the Figaf DevOps Tool is an application you install. It connects to your CPI system. It downloads all the iFlows, then it creates a Git repository, and then you as a user check this out. And then the following process then depends on what you want to achieve and how you want to develop integration. Do you want to just use the Git repository together with Azure DevOps to deploy to the CPI tenant, or do you want to use the Figaf tool to handle virtual landscapes and stuff like that in that process? We talked about the Gradle plugins that allow you to edit these things. So let me just show a little on this. Questions, comments, put them into the chat, then I'll try to answer them. And now we got Asania aboard. He can answer some of the other questions he has. Hi, Nana. So let's go out here. So if we start in our CPI Git repository, we can see here we have an iFlow that has some different properties. We can see we have a header property here in our headers 2, and we will just change this to 180. We have already created some unit test scripts down here that we can run. And we can see what's going on, and oh, it failed. So the idea is when you're running these things, you need to make sure that everything is synchronized. You got the correct project structures, and I think that is one of the things that in the new release we do support. So we've made a change. You would normally see how these things run, what's going on in it, and you can then upload it. I guess, upload this. So we provide all the templates that you need. So you simply just need to copy this, put it into the same. And then let's try to rerun the tests we had up here. Where did it go? And the benefit of having the test and unit test here is that you can actually also go into debug mode and see what is going on with the different projects, and go in debug mode, say at this point in time, what's the data that we have without you having to create any kind of content around it. So we can see it's getting some errors, that it's got some new value. So we can see it is pretty simple to run these things and show what users are getting. Now we don't care about it. So this is just the way about going directly to the upload the data directly to the iFlow, and we can see it just take a little while to upload it. And if we then go to our CPI system, refresh the iFlow, we can see our resources. Here we can see this headers one, and hopefully we'll find the value we changed into it. So we can see it's all here. And if we want to go into edit and edit these things, so you would obviously still need to edit the model up here. So we'll create a new version of it. Any questions, comments? Just put it into the chat. So this was number 105. We'll also just deploy it because we need that later. So in the tool, we are continuously enable synchronization of all objects, and that enables us to actually see what is going on. And if we see a change, we will then push this into the Git repository so users can see it there. And it just takes a little while for it to do these things. And now we can actually see what was changed in here. We can see it was this header script that was changed. We have versions, control versions of all objects. And this is really helpful. So we can go in and we can compare objects, and we can compare it with different type of objects, depending on what it is. So we come from a testing tool. That means it's important for us to be able to know what's different with objects. So we can see here there was actually a small change in this iflow here. So we can see that there was a value that was 35 and now is 7778. So with all this, it is pretty simple to see what's going on in the platform and seeing what's being changed here. We can then create a ticket, and this is just as we saw in Azure DevOps, a way to handle these release procedures, simple and understanding why you're doing some changes on it. You can obviously link it to the Jira incident or method that you have created in a task that you have created for this. And we can then see which object is a part of this. If you want to also be able to transport packages and stuff like that, we can just say here, attach all dependent objects, and then they will be attached to this ticket. We can start our transport. We have test cases here. So here we can look up test cases. Which test cases do we have? And it obviously, normally you should go around and create and make sure that the test cases you have are all valid. And you should know that you can run them at any point in time and they would always give a correct result. So that's the idea of how having these test cases. So now we can see it is been run, I think. We can see if there's a result here yet. And this normally takes a couple of seconds to run. I don't know if we get this. So yeah, we can see now we're getting some compared results. Some of them are an error. We can go in and see what the differences were in these. And this is then some header stuff that we've changed that we now know is okay. And obviously you need to go through all of this and make sure that there's no surprises. And once you have done that, you will just go in, select the test case, and then you can say update and use as testing result. That means next time you run it, this will be a valid test case. Any questions?
You can even rerun the comparison for that already run test case. Yeah.
Yes. So you will always go here, rerun it. Then next up is we want to do the transport, and I think that's one of the big pains in any CPI project. It's a little difficult to transport stuff, and what we then provide is the option that you from a central place can go in and configure all relevant values on this. So you can configure QA services, you can configure demos, you can configure passwords that it should be using at those specific platforms, making it a lot simpler to configure, and you don't need to develop anything in that process. Then we will send it to approval. So we also have approval steps in it. And approve or rejects. It's not much fun to reject it. And then we can start importing, and then just as we did with the Azure DevOps, it will also run it here. So that was the short demo of two different ways that you can do DevOps with SAP CPI And for API management, it will be the same kind of processes that you need to be involved in. The tooling would, really looks the same, and there's no way difference in the processing of these things. So that was a little about what we're able to do. So testing is obviously a huge importance, and how do you actually make sure you have correct test cases, are able to run them successfully. And one of the things we have is a record replay scenario, so it can take data from any iFlow you have, switch the iFlow into trace mode, keep it there, and once you have processed messages correctly, you would then be able to you will then be able to send this into the iFlow again, and seeing what are the results here. And really simple, but also really powerful. And if you're doing success factors, you know that the services like create employee that will not always return that, so you cannot really create an employee multiple times, which is often a problem. And with that, we have an automated mock service that will just mock all these requests, and you don't need to care about anything. It's just about setting it up, and then every time you make a change to the iFlow, it will then make sure that it's synchronized. And this will also work when you have created the test cases with the tool and are using the Azure DevOps, then it can still create these new artifacts and manage them. Then we have reuse, so you can take these test cases and run them as unit tests, as we saw in the example. So it is really simple to get started with these things. And another option, which is really also GDPR relevant, is we have an option to run with confidential data. So you obviously, when we're talking success factors, have employee data that is confidential, and you should not release employee social security numbers or let them get around to your service provider. So that's about simplifying these things. Hi, Juan. Glad you could join. So that was the testing. We can obviously do a demo if that is something you want of this, but the idea, it's really simple. It handles all the things for you, so you don't need to do a lot of stuff on these things. We saw the configuration, we saw the transports. So one of the things we didn't cover here was we also have APIs externally. So if you want to connect it with Jira or Solman, then it will also enable you to import all the transport for a specific Jira incident on QA or production with an external API call. So that also is something that really simplifies the delivery process. And obviously it can also be built into Azure because it has a lot of API calls that you can make there. We do have a good monitoring solution also, which is also a part of DevOps. You need to be able to understand what's going on. You need to classify errors and handle them. And let me just 2 seconds on that. So we have here in the operations, we have a support tool, and this enables us to fetch specific kind of messages. It will then download these messages. We will get an information about these things, what's all the relevant information for it. And then, it's a good thing that we're still producing errors here. So we can then just create a new rule, save it, and then next time we see this, we already have classified it. We already know how to deal with this. And this really speeds up the delivery process about figuring out which alerts are occurring in your system and how to deal with them. Then we do have a good monitoring. And I think that the biggest challenge I did see with the standard one is that you can only select all iFlows on iFlows, which is a little challenging if you're looking at business process and seeing how they've been run. And with this, you can actually see different messages. You have an option to search here. And for payloads, you have option both to see MPL attachments and also the persisted messages, which is the preferred way of handling your development processes. So it's simple, and then you can give users access to it, both business users to view the HR process or view their finance processes, and search for custom headers and stuff like that. So that really simplifies the delivery process and support organization. Now the topic is obviously integration suite, and so for API management we do have the same options. It works the same way, which is really simple. So all developers don't need to be trained on API management. We do it like this. On CPI we do it like this. It's two different Git repositories you connect to, but the plugins and everything like that is the same. So making it a lot easier to develop these things. We do not have testing for API management because I think there's a lot of probably better testing solutions for APIs out there that you can probably use. And then for SAP PI BO, we have also the same options. We do not have the Git repository because it doesn't really make sense in that perspective there. But we do have transport mechanism both with CTS or without CTS Plus. So it can transport just the way as you saw here we did with CPI. We have the testing functionality where you can create mocks, you can test these things, you can make sure you can take test cases where you have collected, for instance, data from your productive PI system and use them for migration purposes on the CPI platform. You can always document changes and seeing who have made changes to which object at what point in time. Deployment, it takes like 5 minutes to get the Figaf tool up and running. It's simply just download a file, run it, and then you connect it to your CPI system so you can use it on your laptop. It's really simple. We also have a cloud offering that we use for specific cases, and then obviously for real life scenario, it's a Java application and you need one of these commercial grade databases behind it. Most of our customers is using it on AWS and then using their hosted Postgres solution for it because it works a lot simpler. And pricing for a small setup, it's like 600 euros a month, which I guess compared to how much you're spending on development and how much developers are spending on some of these tasks is not a lot and would really speed up your development process. So you can start up pretty simple at figaf.com/devops. If you have questions, comments, feedback, put them into the chat. If you want to see anything specific on these DevOps solutions or anything like that, either write the support at figaf.com or put it in the comments. Then I can try to answer those now. And that would be the idea if you have comments on what we can do or what would be a good way for you to handle some of these things. Any comments, feedback, questions? Do put them into the chat and then I will answer them. So yeah. Good. Anything I just missed? Yeah, so we're still live. If you have questions or comments, do put them into the chat. Then I will try to answer them as we go. Otherwise, I do encourage you to go to the site, download the tool, and try it out. I could actually find the simple guide to get you started on the tool, create the Git repository, and no matter which of the solutions you want to create, that is the one that is simple or most simple to work with. And there is a YouTube video here. I will just put that into the chat. So this is getting you started using the Figaf tool, creating Git repository that you can use for all your development and understanding what's getting started with this. So no matter whatever platform, this is the best way to initialize your repository with all the data that you need for it. If you like the session, do please hit the like button, hit the subscribe, or connect if you are on LinkedIn. And it's a little, I don't know, it's a little strange that I see all my connections as third flow. So let's see. But yeah, if you have questions, comments, just put them into the chat. I would appreciate that. Let's see if I forgot anything. Cool. Good. Thanks for joining. Thanks for viewing this. And we